Hello, 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 everyone. This is Michelle, founder of Phenomenal Women Group. And today we have the marvelous Betty Bennafield joining us. She is a native New Yorker. She's a licensed real estate agent at Keller Williams. Being a licensed realtor and investor, she has almost 15 years of experience in the field. Betty offers her clients an exceptional blend of enthusiasm and dedication. I'm gonna get this music from playing. I do apologize, everyone. That's
I
what
like
happens,
it.
you know. I know I try to do something new, and then I did something like, but I do apologize. Gonna figure out what screen I'm in. I don't even know myself. But Betty, I'm going to say more about you. Betty offers her clients a exceptional blend of enthusiasm, dedication, and expertise in real estate, finding buyers for the ideal home that gives her great personal satisfaction, negotiation, and ensuring that her sellers receive top dollar for their investments is paramount. I do thank Betty for giving of her time for today and joining us. It's greatly appreciated. And going to let her, speak and give her presentation.
Many thanks for that wonderful introduction, Michelle. Basically, buying a home is probably the most expensive purchase that you will make in your entire life. And many people are fearful of it. They don't know where to start. And my job as a realtor is to help you, to guide you through the entire process. So what I'll do is I'll start from the beginning. I don't know if you're interested in buying a first-time home or investing in real estate. So in the beginning, when you decide that you'd like to purchase a home, the first thing you should do is you should look at your credit report and find out exactly what your credit score is. You can purchase a home with a 580 credit score. The interest rate will be a little bit higher, but it will be higher, but it's doable. Look at your credit report and see what your score is. Then look at your savings and see how much money you have saved. If you are a veteran, you can get 100% financing. You still need some money for closing, but they will finance the house 100%. Also, if you make a certain amount of money, you can get an FHA loan, which is through the Federal Housing Administration, and that's guaranteed by the government. And you can get a home with 3.5% down. I put my information in the chat box in case anybody wants to contact me and ask me any questions that they don't want to ask now in front of other people, or maybe you want to do a one-on-one consultation and I can sit down and go through the entire process with you. So after you look at your credit report, you figure out your finances and you feel that you're ready to purchase a home, then the next step would be to get pre-approved. To get pre-approved, you would need your bank statements, income tax returns, and proof of income. And if you have any questions, feel free to chime in, put it in the chat box. We can go back and forth and answer whatever question you may have, because sometimes I do go a little bit fast because I do it on a regular basis. So anyway, go to a mortgage person and have them pre-approve you. And the purpose of a pre-approval is to find out how much money you financially can afford. You may have like a couple $1,000s in credit card debt. You may have a car note and stuff like that. So they would take all that into consideration to see how much house you can afford based upon your down payment, based upon how much money you make, and based upon the average amount of homes in the area that you want. And after that, it's time to go start looking for a house. Then you have to get a real estate person to work with you. And I know the perfect real estate person to work with you. You find a home, and after you find the home, you put in an offer. The offer required, the seller's agent requires you to put an offer in with your pre-approval from the bank, and then they decide whether they'll accept it or not. Once they accept the offer, then you would have to have the home inspected to make certain that the furnace is working, the air conditioning is working, refrigerator, the pressure on the water, anything. The inspector checks about anything and everything in the house. How old is the roof, hot water tank, the electrical outlets. And after all that is checked out, hypothetically speaking, if the furnace is not working or the air conditioning is not working, then you would either ask the seller to repair those things or to give you a credit. Once that's done, then the seller would send the contract to your attorney to have you sign off and give your deposit. Your deposit is given, and then the seller will sign the contract, and then you're in contract. After you're in contract, any questions? No questions, okay. After you're in contract, then you would give a copy of the contract to the attorney. Well, the attorney would get it automatically, but you would give it to the banker, and then they would start the process of finding out whether, you know, this home is worthy of you purchasing, whether you financially can afford to buy it, are you still employed? They'll give you a commitment to buy the home, but in that commitment, it'll be based upon you providing additional pay stubs, bank statements, making sure you haven't purchased a car or anything that would make it that you wouldn't be able to afford the home. And after that, it's like clear to close. Now, for somebody who wants to buy a second home, if you have a first home, some people take money out of their first home to buy a second home. They either do it by a line of credit or they refinance and take some of the equity out of the home. Or what they can do is buy a second home and use that as their primary residence and the first home as their investment property. So this way, if you buy your second home, you can use the first home as your investment, and then the first one is a primary, and then you should be eligible for an FHA loan, again, 3.5% down, depending upon how much time from the first purchase of the first home. So line of credit or even savings account, and you buy your second home. A lot of people are saying now that you really shouldn't buy your first home to live in. You should buy your first home as an investment property, and then your second home will be the home that you live in. So this way, the first home, your investment property, will somewhat pay for the home that you live in, but that's a matter of choice, what you want to do. And investors, what they do is what BRRR, and that's called buy, renovate, rent, and refinance. And when they refinance, they pull some of the equity out of the house and they take that money and go purchase another house. So there's a lot of ways that you can do it. It depends upon where you are, what you want to do, how much income you have, how good your credit is. And that's pretty much about it. In terms of, that's a quick overview. Charmaine, do you have any questions?
I have a question, Betty. You know, sometimes you see when you have you may see some advertisements or notifications about new first-time home buyers, these the lotteries that they have, and some of the stipulations are you have to live in the home within a certain amount of time. Is that before you can sell it, resell it, or rent it? What is, I don't know.
Well, a lot of times with the lottery, it depends upon the rules and the regulations of the lottery, but a lot of times they want you to live in the house for 10 years. And if you move out of the house and you decide to sell it before 10 years or the 8, whatever amount of times they tell you, then you don't get all the money. say you bought the house for $200,000, and when you get ready to sell a house, it's worth $275,000. Then they would take a certain percentage of the money that you made on the house. You wouldn't get all of it because they sold it to you at a discount because they felt that you financially couldn't afford to purchase it at the market price. So a lot of times that's how that works. But it depends. There's different rules for each program.
So those those lottery systems, those homes, are they usually like used, not used homes, but like, someone else lived there before? It's not like a new
lot of times their new homes are totally renovated homes.
Oh, okay.
A lot of times, and they normally give it to people. They normally have income requirements. They normally have, like, you have to live there a certain amount of time. Like I said before, you can sell it and keep all the proceeds. If you stay there 10 years, you sell it for whatever you sell it for. But if you leave before then they have stipulations that you can't get all the money that you made from the property because they did sell it to you at a discount.
Right. Yeah, because I normally see those a lot with the lottery, but I wasn't too familiar, and I always see that you have to live in the house for 10 years. So, that's like one of my questions.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you decided to leave prior to, you can sell it. You just wouldn't receive all the benefits from living there for the 10 years. So, but they have the lottery program. They have programs for veterans. In the event that you're a veteran, they do 100% financing. You still would need money, but they would finance the home 100%. And then they have the FHA program for people that only have a little bit of money to put down, and you can get an FHA loan with 3.5% down and 580 credit score. So they have ways of,
That's not bad at all. I see we had some ladies join us just now. So Betty, I don't know if you want to give them basically, I know you not the full. It
was a quick overview.
But
I'd like to ask questions and interchange, because me talking nonstop. I mean, are you a first-time home buyer? Are you trying to buy an investment property? If you can put that in the chat, it would help me, kind of narrow down what to talk about.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please add them in the chat. You're also welcome to unmute yourself and ask Betty any kind of questions that you may have on either a first-time home buyer or as using a property as an
investor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Or if you could just tell me if you're a first-time home buyer, then I'll talk about that a little bit more. No.
Well, my name is Charmaine, and I'm a first-time home buyer. And I was just trying to find out about how do you, I'm not sure how to say this. I live in an area, I'm renting a home right now. Mm-hmm. And so when the home went up, and I was doing it for my landlord management company. And so when the house I was living in, they told me they were going to try to get a different buyer because, of COVID and everything. So they didn't want to go and keep being the landlord. They just wanted to manage the property, if something's broken or that kind of stuff. I tried to actually go in and try to buy the house myself since I've been living in here for amount of years. They would not even allow me to even consider me for buying the home. So I want to know, are there any programs out there that are for people like me who are rebuilding their credit that's and if I'm being, what's the word I'm looking for? If I'm being naive or, if I'm being naive, please let me know. But I've heard of places where you can, you're renting a house, but you can actually have a certain amount that actually goes to the rent and a certain amount to actually buy the home. Are there still those kinds of programs out there, or am I just being told a whole lot of smoke?
No, you're not being naive. In this particular market, they really don't have those programs. Normally it's rent with the option to buy, and that's normally in a buyer's market. Right now, we're in a seller's market. And that means that there's more people looking to buy then we have homes available to sell. So there's a shortage of homes. So in a shortage of homes, they don't do that. But normally if it's a buyer's market, which means there's more homes on the market than there are buyers, then they offer those programs. So no, you're not being naive. It's just that this is not the market. What they do.
So I guess I waited too long. Okay.
You know what? It's a cycle. We're in a seller's market, and then eventually it'll shift to a buyer's market. It'll go back and forth, back and forth. So maybe a year or two from now, it'll be a buyer's market, but we really don't know for certain. But I mean, like I said earlier, there's different programs, and with the 580 credit score, you can get a mortgage. It's easier, I tell some people, it's easier to get a mortgage than it is to find something to rent, because a lot of times renters, they want you to have a 700, 720 credit score. And then with a mortgage, you can get a mortgage with a 580 credit score. So sometimes it's easier. And then you can find.
I'm sorry. And where would I, if it was a, buyer's market now, what kind of sites would I have to go to try to find the programs like that get
it's not a matter of programs. It's just like, hypothetically speaking, if I'm selling a home and there's a lot of homes on the market and there's not a lot of buyers, then I would say, you know what, I can't find somebody to buy this home because there's so many other homes in competition. So let me put my home on the market, rent with the option to buy. And then this gives people the opportunity. So the homeowner would make that decision.
All right. So that answers my question. Thank you.
But also, I mean, I don't know anything about it. I tried to get information, but I was not able to. But Section 8 has programs too, where you can buy a home. And I'm like, that's excellent. Excellent. So any other questions, Charmaine? Okay. Jasmine, you said you're looking into investment property?
Yes, okay. I'm interested.
Okay, what people do, well, what I did was when I bought my second home the first time, I spoke to a mortgage company and they told me that if I wanted to buy a house and not buy it as an investment property, the second house, I would have to use my first house as an investment property. So that meant the house that I lived in, I would have to have a lease on that. And then that would mean that the house that I was buying would be the house that I lived in. And I can do that and put less money down. Because a lot of times with the investment property, they want you to put 20 to 30% down.
Okay.
So my first home became my investment property, the house that I lived in. And then the second house became the house that I was going to live in. So I put less, I think I put down 10%. I don't even remember. It's been a while now. And that's how I did that. And if, sorry.
Oh, that's good to know.
And then some people, what they do is they take a line of credit out to buy the second home to use that as a down payment. So there's different, some people use hard money. I wouldn't really advise using hard money because the interest rate on hard money is high. It could be 8 to 10%, especially if you don't have any experience with investment.
And I don't have any.
And
yeah.
Also, what you can do is you can use money from your retirement account if you would like to. Okay. And Charmaine, if you have Charmaine, if you have a retirement account, you can take money from your retirement account for your first time home, to buy a first home. So that's a possibility too. So.
And thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, you can take money out of your retirement account for a first time home. For investment property, that's a gray area. But for your first home, you can take money out of your retirement account. So there's many ways for you to take your income tax return and use that as a down payment. So it depends upon what you're looking to do. So, I mean, I put my name and my email in the chat box. So if anybody wants to contact me later after the fact, set up a one-on-one consultation so I can walk you through the process, feel free to take my information and give me a call.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And also with the investment property, you would pretty much need the same thing. Bank statements, tax returns, and your pay stubs in order to get pre-approved for a mortgage. Any other questions?
What would you suggest when someone starts the search for their first home? What would you think? And different is it? Will you look the same place as if you're going to do an investment property? What will you look for in an investment property in comparison to when you look for just the home that you live in?
When my first investment property was, I bought the house right next door to where I was living, and I ended up selling that. But I bought property last year, have not ever seen the property. I had a friend that had property in South Carolina, and he told me that he had a property manager there. So I just went on the internet and I was looking at properties, and I told this property manager about it, and he introduced me to a realtor, and they went and looked at the property until he found something that did not need a lot of work. I sent them a check and purchased the property, and I haven't seen it yet, and it's been over a year, and everything is fine. And you know what, when I hear about all this stuff on Instagram, I'm like, that stuff doesn't exist. It doesn't, that's not reality, but I actually did it. So, and the reason why I bought the property in South Carolina was because New York is just too expensive. And then in South Carolina, if you don't pay your rent in 30 days, you don't have a place to stay. They evict you. You can't stay there 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years later. So they put you out. With the COVID, it's a little bit different, but you can't stay any length of time and not pay your rent like you can in New York.
I have a question. So since you have this property you've never been to, I started laughing because I was like, anyway, what is it just basically sitting there? And
no, I have a tenant.
You rented it. Okay.
I have a tenant. My property manager, he interviewed the tenant. He has a system. My property manager has about 10 homes. My friend has 3 homes, I think, in South Carolina. His brother has a home. And yeah, so the property manager I contacted, well, he looked at the property, he told me what needed to be fixed. It was minor stuff. I sent him the money, he fixed the stuff, and he told me he was going to start interviewing people, and he did. And he likes people that receive Section 8. So he found a tenant. And she was so many people who was looking at this house that wanted to be there. She was like, come to my house. I want you to see my house where I live. She was living in a townhouse, and she didn't want to live in a townhouse. She wanted a house, a yard for her kids. And he went to her house. He said, Betty, her house was immaculate. It was very nice. And a month later, she was living there, and I get my check like clockwork. No problems whatsoever. He called me about a month ago, and he told me that there was a leak at the sink, and I was like, what do I owe you? So he was like, well, I have your security. So it was bare minimum. I think it was like $30 or $40 or something like that.
That's definitely not New York prices. So I have a question. So does one find a property manager first to then locate the home that's going to be your investment property? And then how would you find that person?
Well, I was fortunate enough to find a property manager because a friend of mine, he had property in South Carolina. So, and it's a family member of his. So he told me about him, and he told me, I said, well, what does he charge? He charges 10% of whatever the rent is. And he interviews the tenants, and he does quarterly checks on the place, and he, to make certain that she's taking care of it. There's no holes in the walls, and, there's no damage. Every 3 months, makes an appointment, goes by, checks, and there's no problems. Now, how I would find that property manager, I would probably go online to investment site. There's investment sites. I can't even think of the name, property something. If anybody wants it, they can text me or email me, and I'll look it up. But you can go on there, and they have property managers that people, investors use, because there's plenty of investors that don't live in the same state and they buy stuff sight unseen, and the property managers. The only thing about that is that if you're not there, there's a possibility that people may overcharge, overbill you for certain things, but that's the cost of doing business. I mean, I trust my property manager because he's my friend's cousin. However, I'm sure if it wasn't him, somebody else would overcharge me. Like he told me it was like $30, $40 for the leak. Somebody else would have probably told me $150, $200, but it's the cost of doing business.
Does anyone else have any questions for Betty?
I don't give
first time. Sorry, Betty, go ahead.
I don't get phone calls in the middle of the night. You know, this is broken, the heat's not working. I don't have to be concerned about any of that stuff. So it's worth it to me. It's not one of these $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 homes in New York, where, you know, if somebody doesn't pay your rent, you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to court. In the event that my tenant didn't pay their rent and he had to evict them, he would go to court, he would file the papers, he would do everything. So to me, it's a no-brainer for me.
Well, I raised my hand several times. I was waiting for someone to call on me.
I saw you raise your hand, but I didn't know Elizabeth, right? I did see the hand up. I apologize.
Sorry, Elizabeth.
Oh, this is Miss Jones. I'm not Elizabeth.
I'm sorry, it says Elizabeth.
Elizabeth has her hand raised too. Sorry, Miss Jones.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So let Miss Jones go, and after Miss Jones, we'll go to Elizabeth. Go ahead, Miss Jones.
Oh, what I wanted to know is, I'm a homeowner. My husband's a veteran. We never used the veteran's loan, but they're always telling me, I'm always running into that brick wall that they say we have to be in the investment house in order to use the veteran loan. How do we get around that? I think that's so ridiculous that my husband served this country and can't use the benefits of serving this country by using the VA loan, and I wanted to do it as an investment property. So how do I get around that?
There's not really a way that you can get out around it legally. You would have to say that you're going to use that as your primary residence, and that's fraud. But when I bought my house, I was living in my house, and then when I decided to buy a second property, then I didn't have anybody to live in my first house. So I had somebody sign a lease and said they were going to be living in my first house so I could get my second property. But that's not a good thing. I wouldn't advise you to do that. Because if anything were to happen, that could be problematic. There's really no way for you to get around it unless you were going to live in that house when you got the mortgage and then eventually move out. But you would have to live, you should live in there.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Are you talking about the same state or a different state?
Same state.
Okay.
New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Jersey. I will purchase in Jersey, which is a little bit cheaper than New York.
It is some areas of New Jersey. I looked into New Jersey for investment property too. But the South was a no-brainer for me, South Carolina, because everything was set up for me, the property manager, and so it was just a matter of me purchasing the home. And but
is it a way of how? What's the question, Mike? How do we establish? How will we establish that will be our new place? But really, it isn't.
Well, you could basically say that you're renting out the home that you live in.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You'd have to be renting out the home that you're living in, and that would be your primary residence. That's where because people, you can live in one house and outgrow that house and want to move to a second house, a bigger house, or downsize to a smaller house. But you know, you would have to show proof, a lease or something like that, because they would say you financially can't afford 2 mortgages. So they would need to know that something is happening with that first home, is rented or something, or you're selling it.
So we would have to provide some type of lease or some type of proof of that?
I'm sure the bank would ask for some type of proof, yeah.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't want you to have 2 mortgages, because you would have to prove that you financially could afford to carry 2 mortgages. Now,
Got it.
yeah, so you would have to, I'm sure they would ask for proof.
Okay.
When I did it,
Okay.
was 100 years ago, and they asked for it then, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What will be the proof besides the lease and stuff?
Probably the lease, and then they may ask to see a bank statement seeing where you made a deposit of X amount of money in your account for that amount. But because you're moving from the first house to the second house, you probably wouldn't have that many deposits, because maybe 1 or 2, because you're still living there up until almost the time you're buying the second house. But they may ask for bank statements, a bank statement or something like that, proof that you made a deposit into the account for that amount of money.
And okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. My information is in the chat if you need to contact me, text, email, call.
Okay, Betty, we have Elizabeth here waiting patiently. So thanks, Ms. Jones. So Elizabeth Wellington, you have any questions for Betty?
Sure. Well, first of all, Betty, I want to say thank you so much for bringing this type of information to our people. This is very important, and it's educational, and we have to start to embrace ourselves with investment as such for future, because we don't know how long we would be on this earth, right? But first of all, me and my husband, we have over-the-road trucking, and he do a lot of run in the northern region, right? So he goes to South Carolina, North Carolina often. So ever so often, I'm thinking of investing, getting a home out there. He has a home in New York, which we are located in Elmont. And I was thinking he makes so many, runs out on that end, that I was thinking of getting a home out there. And in a matter of fact, investing out there, because the new trend, as we could tell and we can see, New York is overcrowded now, and it's like the tides is turning. So the people who in New York, they are moving down south, and they're moving to North Carolina, and they're able to, work with businesses and, escalate with their business. Because I know someone who had a coffee business, and the kind of money that they tell me they make a week is fun. It's out of this world. You hear me? But anyhow, so I was thinking, what are the process from being out of state looking to invest there, and who would be the appropriate person to recommend for doing that type of investment?
Well, it's pretty much the same thing. You would have to get pre-approved for a mortgage. Mortgages are a lot cheaper in South Carolina and North Carolina. My second home is in South Carolina, Somerville, South Carolina. But even when I first started looking, I was seeing 140, 150. And when I finally found something that I wanted to purchase, I purchased it for 177. And that was like, grab it, because there was so much competition. Prices are just going up. And the reason why they're going up is because Northerners are going south, because I can take my $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 home, sell it here, and go down there and buy 1 or 2, 3 homes possibly, and live off of the income from the rental properties. So the prices have gone up tremendously. I'd love to purchase another home in the South, but I'm kind of sort of waiting and hoping that the market shifts a little bit downward. So the first thing you would have to do is get pre-approved. And like I said earlier, bank statements, tax returns, and pay stubs. And then find a realtor in the South. And If you don't have a realtor, let me know. Keller Williams is all over the United States. Actually, it's all over the world. Somebody from Jamaica, West Indies, it was trying. Yeah, we're all over the world. So if you need a realtor, let me know.
Sure.
And I'd be more than happy to recommend somebody to you, depending upon where you're going in South Carolina or North Carolina. And then basically just look and see what you like.
Mhm.
What they do is you can have a realtor go to a property and they'll do like a video for you if you don't want to go there. And if your husband's back and forth, he can go there and look. But when I was looking, it was very, very, very competitive.
Yeah.
Very competitive. And it's only been like a year, a little bit over a year.
Wow.
So the pre-approval and then just start looking.
And especially the air, he said the air is like pine. It's so intriguing. I was like, well, I know I just got to do some investment there now.
Yeah. And the good thing about investing in the South is that, you know, they pay their rent, and if they don't, they get evicted. And a lot of times they pay because they don't want to get evicted. 30 days you're out.
Wow.
So
a good investment is probably you putting down about what, $15,000 and.
Well, it depends upon the
like
price of the house. If it's an investment property, sometimes they ask you for 20 to 30% down. It depends.
Oh, okay.
So they ask for more if it's an investment property, more for you to put down. So with 20 to 30% on 200, 250 is a lot less than 20 to 30% on the 500, 600, 700,000 in New York. So, right.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this platform. I mean, this is so educational. And, you know, I had to say thank you for opening this type of platform. Hope we can just spread the word and get more people, you know, to be knowledgeable of this.
Real estate is one of the best ways to invest, to build wealth. And we don't have, you know, a lot of times we don't have this information. Sometimes our parents didn't have a home or our friends don't have one and we don't know, you know, oh, I can't afford a home, it's too expensive, but where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right.
A couple of income tax returns, save a little bit of money and, you know, and if you're a veteran, you definitely can get a house. So there's plenty of ways.
Great, thank you.
Can someone enter your information in the chat again? Because it's not there as far as I see.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just reposted it.
Oh, you did?
Everyone, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle, because I put my name there and pressed enter and thinking that I was going to the next line, but I wasn't. But generational wealth, pass it down to your children, your grandchildren, and in this way they don't have to start from ground zero. So many other cultures, you know, they pass their house down and, you know, child, they buy a house, so they have 2, 3, 4 homes, they have apartment buildings and stuff like that, but we don't have it. Because a lot of time, I'm sorry?
I said, that's a shame.
Yeah, because we don't have it, we don't know how to do it. It's just, I mean, I'm an old lady and I'm just starting really investing maybe.
You a young old lady.
Well, I shouldn't even say that. I started investing years ago, and I'll tell you another little story about me. I bought my house and I bought the house next door to me. And then at that time I was doing daycare and I'm a shopaholic, and there was a daycare center that was going out of business. And I went to the daycare center to buy some stuff and they were selling the building. And I ended up buying the building. And what happened was the owner was willing to hold the mortgage for 5 years because he was retired and this was a means of income for him. So he held it for 5 years. And then after 5 years, I refinanced and I went and got a mortgage and I paid him off. But that was a means of him making money, guaranteed money. Right. And in the event that I didn't pay, he could evict me. So that worked out. Any other questions?
I know that you sell real estate, Betty. I'm very curious to see some of the homes that you have for sale. You do a screen share. Let me see some of those homes.
I don't know. I can't, don't ask me to do anything with technology. I can't do a screen share, but I do have a couple of homes coming up on the market. I have one that's should be going into contract within the next week. That was in Freeport. Then I have one that's should be going on the market another week, maybe 2 weeks at best, in Westbury, and one in Belmore that Monday it'll be on the market. Pictures are done. We're waiting for the pictures to come back. And then I have a commercial building in Queens that should be on in another 2 weeks. So, but I can't do screen shares. But if you send me your email, I'll keep you posted of anything that's coming on the market, because it's a tight market. Anything that comes on the market, if you price it right, it goes immediately almost.
I know you mentioned commercial property. How would one do an investment with commercial real estate instead of like a home?
If you want commercial, meaning apartment building?
That, or maybe
commercial,
like
storefront.
Yeah, storefront. Yeah. So what would you say is the best?
I'm sorry?
Which would you say is the best to get into? Like commercial real estate, like storefront, or commercial real estate, like apartment building?
Well, it depends upon what you're doing. I have a friend that owns a couple of buildings in Queens, and she told me her story, and she said that she was living in the projects, her and her kids, and she said while her friends was out, this was many moons ago, while her friends were out buying Cadillacs, she was taking the bus, and they used to tease her and make fun of her, and she moved out the projects and she bought a building, a small building. I think it was 6 apartments or something like that. And her and her kids lived in one of the apartments, and they stayed there for a few years. And then she ended up buying a house. And meanwhile, she said her friends were still in the projects. So, I mean, it depends upon what's important to you. If I had it to do all over again, I probably would buy a 2-family house to start. So this way I would be getting income to help me pay the mortgage and save up some money, and then rent out the second apartment and buy my own house. That's if I had to do it all over again, that's what I would do. So let somebody else help me pay for my living expenses.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What some people do is they get the mother-daughter houses and get a permit from the town, and then you live in one section and then you can rent out the other section. So you have to get a permit in order for it to be legal, and you have to live there in order for it to be legal. So, and that's normally like a high ranch type home. So it's like you go up a few steps and your quarters are there, and you go down a few steps and then somebody else would be living there. But the owner has to live in that house in order for it to be a legal mother-daughter. But you can rent it to somebody else, a stranger, a family member.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Who's speaking? Sorry, I didn't get your name.
I have exorbitant amount of student loans, which always jacks my DTI up. And I feel like I'm stuck, because with this mortgage on my primary home that I'm living in, I want to buy a duplex or some other investment property, but can't really enter the market because I'm not sure how, number one, how I'm going to ever be able to save up 30% of, for another home. And then how I'm ever going to be approved for a mortgage unless it's like a turnkey property or something I can get right into and automatically draw income from that they can use towards my DTI to get approved for the loan. And so many things. And I've looked into this and tried to figure out like how I just feel stuck with this house that I have. Love the house, love being a homeowner, but trying to figure out how I can, become an investment, get into investment properties with this over my head.
Now, when you say stuck in this home, you love the home, but you would like to buy an investment property, or you would like to sell that house and buy a 2-family house?
I want to keep this house. Love the house.
You want to keep that? You want to keep that house and you want to buy another house?
Yes.
And your debt to income is over like the 30-40%?
Just bumping up against it, about maybe 25, 24.
25, 24, you should be able to, depending upon how much your down payment is.
Mm-hmm.
You probably, the best thing for you to do is probably to talk to a mortgage banker, a mortgage lender. If you need one, give me a call, text me, and I should be able to send you to, I'll give you a couple of names and you pick which one you like the best.
Okay.
And
what do you think about doing like turnkey properties that I could draw income from, like that I don't have to, be paying the mortgage, waiting to get it fixed up, or all these things?
turnkey is, I mean, if you don't have anybody to repair the house, then you can spend a lot of money on repairs because contractors normally charge a lot. So turnkey may be better for you. It depends upon how much money. If you're tight on funds, then you probably would need to buy something that needs some repairs because you will get it cheaper.
Okay.
If you have a husband, cousin, a family member, or somebody that's handy, then that would probably be the better route because you could get something cheaper.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't think that you're stuck ever. Don't think that you're stuck ever. You may be stuck, but somebody who does that for a living will be able to tell you how to get around and do what you need, what you want to do. You may not be able to do it this month or next month, but just be patient and work through whatever they tell you to do. And that's the best thing I think for you to do, is speak to somebody who does that for a living, a mortgage person, and they'll say, hey, you need to pay off $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 or whatever. And then, so they'll be able to tell you, but don't feel that you're stuck.
Okay, thank you.
Ever. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Hear you, Betty. Does anyone else have any questions for Betty while we have her here sharing her information?
Sure. One more question. I just would like to know, in terms of the taxes down south, what are the numbers when it comes to property taxes?
My property taxes, I think like $1,100 for the year. So that's like $90 a month, something like that. But when I was looking at properties, I did see something for like $1,800, $1,900 a month. And I was like, ooh, that's expensive. But I mean, $1,200, $1,400 easy. And a friend of mine, his properties are like $900. Sometimes they do charge out-of-state residents more. But it's a lot. We pay $1,000 a month in New York, where someplace else you pay $1,000 a year. So there's a big difference,
Yep.
I have another question. I'm sorry. There's a program in Philadelphia, which is where I'm from, called Jumpstart. And it's not just in Philly, I think it's in Baltimore as well, some other places, but it's called Jumpstart. And it's for, it's supposed to be to get people of color into becoming developers. And so they offer you hard money loans at about 7 or 8% interest rate. They take you through a whole training course, I think it's like 6 weeks of training. And once you graduate, you're able to get a hard money loan from them at 80%, and you have to come with the 20. And then you get a mentor through the program, and they match you up with, or they give you some leads because all of the places have to be like fixer uppers and things so that you can make a profit. But you have to sell the property. You can only flip these properties. You can't keep them, hold them, or any of that, or rent them. You have to do that. The terms of the contract is the 80-20, the 7 or 8%, and you have to flip it in a year. Or at least be able to get a loan, a refinance loan or something like that. But to get it out of the hard money loan if you're not able to flip it in a year. What do you think about
that's a traditional hard money loan. Hard money loans normally are for 1 year as a max. And you really wouldn't want to keep it for more than 1 year because the interest rates are really high. Normally the interest rates are anywhere between 8 to 10% for a hard money loan, and they do 80%. And a lot of times they'll do 100% of the renovation costs. But the thing about hard money loans is I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that you have to make sure you know what you're doing, because you buy a house and you have the intentions of flipping it. If you don't have good people that will give you reasonable prices to do the renovations, then that eats up a lot of your profits. And the second thing is you have to make sure you have enough meat on the bone. So when you have a hard money loan, you don't pay the loan off, you pay the interest on the loan. So hypothetically speaking, if you take a loan out for $200,000, when you're 6 months, 9 months, or whatever length of time you keep the money, you still owe $200,000. So each month you'll pay your interest on the loan. So if your interest is $1,000, and that's what you'll pay monthly, and at the end of your time period, then you'll have to pay whatever you borrowed from the hard money lender. One of the good things about a hard money loan is when you bring them a deal, they will review it to make sure it's a win-win situation, because they don't want to get stuck with the property if you can't come through. And that's how they get their money. They either get the money back from you or they take the property. So they check and make sure that it's a decent to good deal where it's a win-win situation for them. So it's good in that aspect, but you have to have your contractors and everything and everyone together. And you have to take into consideration that it is at a higher interest rate. Most loans now are like 3.5%, 3.25%, something like that for a mortgage. And they're charging 8 to 10%. And normally 8% is for somebody who has experience and 10% is for somebody who does not have any experience. So does that answer the question?
Yes. Is that something that you would recommend for someone just starting out, or what are your thoughts about that?
Not really for somebody who doesn't have experience.
Okay,
I mean, it's not a bad thing at all. I don't have a problem with hard money. It's just that if you don't do your numbers right and you say, okay, I'm going to be out of this property in 3, 4, 5 months, and your renovations, you think that's going to be $20,000 and your renovations turn out to be $40,000. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. So on a first flip, I'd be a little leery about that. If you want to do a flip, try to partner with somebody who does have the experience and possibly the contractors, the plumber, electricians, and all that other stuff. Because you can find yourself in a hole. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying thank you.
No, but I think it's good, but I think for somebody inexperienced that you really should try to partner with somebody.
Okay.
So the final last question, Betty.
You can ask as many questions as you want. You know what? I don't like talking, and I'm just talking because I don't know what you want to hear. So I prefer that you ask me questions and then I can elaborate on that, as opposed to me just talking and I'm like, is this what they want to know? Is this what they want to know? Because you don't know. Everybody's in a different place. Somebody may be a home buyer. Somebody may be trying to buy their first home, and somebody may be trying to buy an investment property. So ask as many questions as you like.
Okay. So I know, like, for first-time home owners, like many years ago, the government used to give like probably $10,000 as a first-time home owner. So with regards to South, do they have that type of offer?
Do they still have programs like that?
Yes.
They do have programs. They do run out of money. So I can't say for certain. I haven't checked recently. They may be out of money because this is the end of the year, but I think it's not the CDC, community. I'm sorry.
CDFI, those?
Community development. Text me and I'll find out for you. Right.
Betty, for those people that are going to see the restream, then they won't see the chat. If you can just read off your number and your
okay,
website.
No worries.
Thank you.
Right. My telephone number is 516-633-7874. And my email is Betty Bennafield at kw.com. And that's spelled B as in Betty, ETTY, BENNA, F as in Frank, IELD at kw.com. Community development, I'm not certain exactly what it is, but if you text me or email me, I'll get the information to you. If you have any questions after today, you know, you feel like call and text and just, hey, Betty, I need to talk to you and you want a one-on-one consultation, it's free. Give me a call. I don't have any problems helping anybody. I love helping people build wealth.
Well, I mean, yes, that's nice because you are helping educate your sisters, you know.
Mhm.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Knowledge is power. And when we, you know, when we are
It
more
is.
knowledgeable about investment as such, especially, you know, going into that direction, you will always have money.
Mhm.
But I
And they
know
have
I'm going to be investing down south. Yeah.
Me too. And actually I was looking into Philadelphia. So I'm looking around. I like the setup that I have now. But if you have a house, you always have money. You can either sell the house, you can either take a line of credit out, or you can refinance and take money out. So you always have money when you have a home. So it's a means of building wealth. It's a means of buying a second home. It's just a means of, you know, improving your place in life. That's my thoughts.
Thank you.
Questions?
Philadelphia is a great place in that the real estate taxes are still below market value in most areas, especially urban, you know, areas. So if you're thinking about it, come. It's really, the only problem is our eviction courts are backed up. We have a large population and people go a very long time. And I have heard stories from my friends about the nightmare with Corona and all of these things. With not getting paid for over a year and a half and stuff. So our eviction courts are terrible, but you know, the trade-off is that the taxes.
New York is not, it's a tenant-friendly state. And one of the reasons why I bought in South Carolina, because South Carolina is not a tenant-friendly state. And you get evicted in 30 days. With COVID, it's not the same, but you get evicted. In New York, I have a friend of a friend who's, it's over 2 years and she still can't, you know, evict people. And a lot of times the easiest way to have somebody move from your premises is to give them money. And a lot of times landlords do give tenants money to move. And sometimes that works.
I know that New York they have that program for tenants in COVID who are having difficulty. I think the city will help pay your rent. I don't know about Long Island, but I know the city is doing something.
They're helping out. Yeah, if you're behind in your rent, you know, they'll help you with it, which is good because that's not normally what they do. But during COVID, they are helping out. But we want to be the landlord, don't we, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
We want to be the landlord. And a lot of people are doing Airbnb now. They're buying properties. I don't know much about it, but so I'm told that you buy properties and you make more than you have somebody living there for an entire year. So if you're in a popular place near a beach, or I was talking to one lady, I don't know where you people are located, but one of the ladies, she lives in Hempstead, and I said, who rents from you? Airbnb? She said the Coliseum. So I was like, I never thought about that. If you're near college, parents come to see their kids. So that's popular too, Airbnb. So if you have a place and you have an extra room, there's a possibility that you may be able to get rental income for renting out for a couple of days, a week or two. people that financially can't afford to stay in the city in Brooklyn. And they take the Long Island Railroad from Nassau County to the city. And it's cheaper to live out here and rent an Airbnb than it is in the city. A lot of times.
How does one, if you are, you make a decent income and you're trying to get an investment property, I think the thing that scares me the most is how do you get 30%, which is, I don't know, if you're talking about $150,000 property, right? We're talking about $45,000, which to me, from where I am, that's a significant amount of money. How does one do that, still try to raise their family, pay their existing mortgage? Like, it seems almost insurmountable sometimes.
So you say that you're trying to find a property for how much? $150,000?
Yes.
Okay, hypothetically speaking, if you're trying to find one for $100,000 and you want to put down 20% for investment property, depends upon what the bank says. So that's about $30,000, right? Is my math right? Is my math right?
100,000 at 20% is 20,000.
100,000, but you said 150, right?
Yeah, 150. Mm-hmm.
Okay, 150,000. That's 30,000.
20, yes. Mm-hmm.
20. Okay, 20,000. So on $20,000, if you have a house and you have a line of credit, you can take some money from your house for the line of credit. You could take money from your retirement account.
Mm-hmm.
So income tax returns.
Those things scare me though, like putting it to me, the line of credit and my 401k and that stuff is like putting my what is a sure thing on the line for something I don't know, because it's my first time out, if I'm going to be successful. And I cannot stand to lose my first home or my retirement.
Well, $30,000 is not going to, $20,000 is not going to make you lose your first home.
Mm-hmm.
$20,000. And hypothetically speaking, if you go buy a house for $150,000, if it's not working out, then you can sell the house. And more than likely, it's not going to depreciate it. If anything, it'll appreciate unless you bought an overpriced home. But buying real estate is almost a win-win situation. The biggest problem that I hear from you is that you're scared.
Yes.
And you probably were scared when you bought your first home. You probably were.
Yeah.
And you probably were scared when you bought your first home. Oh, what if I lose my job? What if? But if you lose your job, you still need a place to stay.
Right.
So the thing about it too is that you'll never be 100% satisfied that, oh, I can do it and I'm not going to fail. You'll always have some type of fear, but the thing for you to do is step out, but make a conscious decision. And the thing about it is when you purchase a home and you get a mortgage, the bank is going to make sure you're not overpaying for that home. They will send somebody out to do an appraisal. And if the house doesn't appraise, then so you're not going to lose because you're paying too much for the house. Okay. And then you do your research and find out, is this an area where people are looking to rent? And most places, there's always someone to find. I mean, there's always someone to rent. What I do is somebody is renting from Section 8, my house in South Carolina. So if they lose their job, Section 8 will pay the entire thing. I love Section 8. I get my money like clockwork. No problems whatsoever. So I wouldn't be fearful of that. I would just, step out. The main thing is if it's out of state, that you have a property manager that you trust, that you feel comfortable with. You don't have to worry about getting phone calls in the middle of the night, the toilet is stopped up or the heat is not working. I don't get any of that. I love it.
That's great. So ladies, it's like an hour in, and we do appreciate Betty for her time that she gave us this evening. So we're gonna do the last set of questions. If anybody has some questions for Betty before we end this presentation, or if Betty would like to leave some last remaining tips or advice before we close out.
Yes, one. Okay, with regards to the credit rating, I know in New York right now, they said if you have a credit rating within the range of 530 to 639, it's not a problem. You can get yourself into a home, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm not too sure if that's truthful according to the mortgage bracket or where you fall into. And second of all, if you have a home, and with regards to taxes, again, it's not good to totally pay off for your home because of taxes. So you can get that break, you know, like at the end of the year. So if you have a mortgage, so it's not good to completely pay for the whole entire mortgage of the house. Say like you have a house for 500,000 and you come to the term and it's all near to an end. It's always good to remortgage. It's not good to totally pay all that dollars off. Is that true?
Well, the first thing, the first question you said on 530 credit score. I don't know anything about a 530. I know you can get a mortgage with a 580 credit score. So I'm not certain about a 530, but you would have to speak to a mortgage lender. The second thing in reference to paying off your mortgage, that's what I've been told. That it's not best because you don't get to write off the interest on your mortgage loan. You still get to write the taxes off because whether you pay your house off or not, you still have to pay taxes.
Yes.
On your property taxes, but you don't get to write the interest off. So that's a matter of preference. Me, I prefer not to have a mortgage. I prefer to keep that extra money in my pocket and just write off the taxes and find other stuff to write off and take that money and possibly buy a second home or a third home, and not continue to pay interest on a loan that I really don't need. So if you pay off your mortgage, you may consider saying, you know what, let me take a loan against the house and take that money and buy another house. That's what I would do.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be concerned about not having a mortgage because when you retire, you would hope that you don't have a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you do have a mortgage, it's a mortgage on a second, third, or fourth home.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my opinion.
Nice. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you answered what I needed to know.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know about 530. I can't say for certain. If you need a banker, a mortgage person, text me, email me 516-633-7874, and I'll be happy to give you my contacts.
No, I just overheard it on the advertisement with, you know, like buying homes, you know. I was kind of
yeah,
I've
heard that too. I've heard that too. I paid my house off and then I took a line of credit out. So I have a line of credit and I'll always keep a line of credit because if I decide to jump up and buy another house, I have the money there and I can just, you know, yeah, I was told by a mortgage person that it's better to have a line of credit than a reverse mortgage.
Okay.
And the young lady that asked me earlier in reference to buying a second home, being concerned about not being able to pay, afford, and stuff like that. In the event that you have problems with not being able to pay your mortgage, that's not a problem because you can lose your job or you get sick or something happens where you financially can't afford to pay your mortgage. The main thing is communication. The bank does not want your house. They want you to deal with whatever problems that you have, get your finances together, and then set up a plan with them. And a lot of people lose their home because they don't say anything and they just sit there. I can't pay month 1, 2, and 3 and just forget about it. I'm just going to write it out until they evict me. But a lot of times you have equity in the house and you lose that equity because the bank sits up there and they charge you penalties and fees and legal fees and interest, all that stuff. But the thing about it is, If you get behind on your mortgage, whatever the situation is, your medical problem, you get yourself back together, you contact the bank and you tell them, say, this is what's going on in my life, and I can't pay you for the next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I should be back at work, and they'll work with you. They'll ask for proof. I need to see a doctor's note. I need to see some type of proof that you have, you know, your husband left or your wife left or whatever happened. And then they want to see pay stubs that you financially can afford to pay, and they'll renegotiate the loan with you. And a lot of times, and if you know anybody that's falling behind in their mortgage, tell them to speak to the bank. You can give me a call too, and I'll talk to you. You can either keep the house or you can do a short sale and sell it, but don't just give away money. And that's what you do when you don't do anything and you let the bank take the house. Don't just give away money. And that's, yeah. And we don't realize that a lot of times we don't want anybody in our business, and we don't want anybody knowing that we're having a struggle. But from time to time, we all will have a struggle. We all will have a problem. But speak up and say something, because you don't know how to resolve the situation, but somebody who does that for a living will be able to help you, and you'll save your house and save a lot of money. I'm sorry, I went on and on and on.
That was good information, Betty. Great information.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, tell people if they're behind in their mortgage, say something. But it's buying a home is a great investment. It's a great investment. It helps you build wealth. It helps create generational wealth for you, your grandkids, your children, and it's a win-win situation. So, any other questions?
I think it's time, like, if you have any tips or suggestions before we close out, Betty. I don't think
just do it. Just do it. If you want me to hold your hand, I will hold your hand. I can hold your hand a little bit out of state. I mean, because I did it, but everything was set up for me. It was a no-brainer for me. I'm considering trying to purchase something in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, but that's going to be something new for me because I don't really know enough about it, but the property prices are pretty reasonable there. So I'm thinking about starting to do the research on that, but anything I can do to help you, I'll hold your hand. I'll lead you and guide you as much as I possibly can, but you will never feel like, yes, this is a win-win. I can do this. I'm not scared. You'll always have that fear. What can go wrong? But whether it's house 1, 2, or 3, you'll always have those butterflies.
Well, I'd like to thank you so much, Betty, for doing this presentation. And before we close out, if you could leave your contact information one more time.
My contact information, my telephone number is 516-633-7874. And my email is Betty Bennafield at kw.com. The spelling of that is BETTY BENNA, F as in Frank, IELD as in David, at kw.com.
Thank you so much, Betty. And ladies, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you, Betty, for taking this time and doing this. And it was,
I appreciate you.
Pearls of wisdom for everybody tonight. I have like a 6 month, I'm going to buy my home.
And ladies, I want you to email me and text me and say, you know what? I bought my first home. Thank you so much. I'm in the process of buying my home, or I'm in the process of buying my second home, or I help my friend do something. Text me, call me. I'd love to hear from you.
And thank you once again, everyone. And have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Betty, again. Thanks all the ladies that joined us. And we're going to have this on replay on the Facebook page within, I don't know, soon, very soon. And we appreciate your time, everyone. And have a good evening.
Good evening.